Hi, I'm David Bacon. You may well remember me from previous demos showcasing our dynamic re-ranking and query categorization features, but during this video I'll be showing you how to get started with click and conversion events. Now, to send events is to unlock the full power of Algolia, to get the best of our tool. It's the critical step when you're onboarding with us, and then sending them will make sure that you're well placed to use our AI features in the best way possible, like dynamic re-ranking, personalization, Algolia recommend, neural search, and last but not least, your analytics. So I've got lots of information for you, so let's jump right in. So the name of the game really here is to implement and optimize Algolia AI features so that you can meet or exceed your KPIs, which then will increase revenue. And really that can only happen once you've mastered sending events. So to truly be a master, we need to build this strong foundation. So here's the demo agenda for today. We're going to start by defining some key terms. Then we're going to move on to types of events that we have available, how to send them, some tips from the field from myself, some common pitfalls that we see, and then more about how easy it is actually to send some events if you use our InstantSearch front-end libraries. And then we're going to finish up with how to debug events in the dashboard and the front end. So there are three key terms here. The best things in life come in threes, as I've heard. We've got events, analytics, and query ID. So events and analytics can be sometimes mixed up when people are contacting us, and it's important to understand the difference. So events are really raw user interactions, such as views, clicks, conversions that track the engagement with the search and discovery experience. Analytics, on the other hand, are really aggregated insights derived from searches and events, helping measure performance. Now, query ID, this is Algolia specific. So if this is the first time you've heard of query ID, then don't worry. It's a unique identifier that's returned from the search query, which then you pass into the events that follow it. So with the query ID, this is the element that's connecting the search to the subsequent event. So for example, if someone searched for iPhone, then they saw a list of hits, they clicked on the first hit, that query ID that we return from the search is the glue which ties that event, that click event on the first iPhone, back to that search. Don't worry too much if that's all a bit confusing. It will all become clear when we dive into the code. But the point really here is to drive home that the query ID is really essential for the relevance tuning and AI powered features. So broadly speaking, there are three types of events. 3 is the magic number today, apparently. We have view events, which are quite simply when users see search results after typing a query, right? Click events, this is when users interact with the search result. So they make a search, they get a list of products, and they click on one. Conversion events are more like when users complete key actions like adding to cart or purchasing, or the equivalent for a non-transactional, non-e-commerce use site that would be like favoriting something or reading an article. So here's a visual of a typical user search journey, from the search bar on the left all the way to the checkout on the right-hand side. And at the bottom, you can see all the different signals that you could track from end users at different points. So starting at the search bar, let's imagine someone types something in, and then they see search results. And at that point, you can send a view event. Now, this signal here is showing exposure to products. And then a user could click on one of the results from the search results page and click through to a PDP. So this click through to a PDP is a signal that they are indicating intent. While they're on the PDP, the product detail page, they could send different signals, add to carts if you're an e-commerce use case, or add to favorite if you're not. And the signal really here is that you are confirming an action from a user. And finally, if we look on the right-hand side, the checkout, this is where users can purchase products in e-commerce use cases, and this is usually the strongest signal. So I just wanted to point out something that customers out there might be wondering, oh, hang on a minute, how does this work for category pages, right? Because that drives a lot of our traffic. Well, actually, the journey would be the same. You just have to replace this search page part here with your PLP, with your product listing page or category page, whatever you call that. And then they click through to the PDP here. So overall, you can see that events matter, right? Because they're providing these direct signals about user engagement, and together they're painting a clear picture of how users are interacting with your content and your products. So when we dive into the code, we're going to look at how to send events using the Search Insights library on my local node environment. And then we're going to sort of validate it by jumping in and out of the Algolia dashboard debugger. Believe me, the debugger is really your real-time friend here. And hopefully with the if the demo gods are here, it's going to be my real-time friend too. So I can tell you right now, before we jump in, that the majority of issues that we see on our side are due to missing parameters when you're sending events. And it sounds so obvious, but really the solution here is to make sure that those parameters are not missing, making sure that you're sending the correct ones. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but we are here to help. So if you are not familiar with code, do not worry. We'll keep it high level so that you can follow, but then hopefully we'll sprinkle enough detail in there for the developers out there. So I've got this local environment where I'm running some JavaScript, and all I'm going to do is simply perform a search. So I'm going to send a search request to Algolia, and then I'm going to send a click event after it. So I just wanted to dive into the details of the search. So we're performing a search, and within the payload of the search, we're going to have the query Sony. So we're querying the word Sony. I've stated the index name of the index that I want it to query, and we're sending a user token. Now, just to unpack a bit about a user token, we recommend, we say it's our best practice to add a user token to every search. This is essential for things like personalization, but it's also really important for things like analytics aggregation, because by default, if you don't send user token, we aggregate by IP. And if you're using any kind of backend search, then those IPs are going to come from your bunch of servers. So it will look like it will come in from the same kind of user. So we really, our best practice here is to send a user token with every search. People often ask questions about user token and PII, right? Personal identifiers information, not having people's details in the user token. And that is really important. By default, our library hashes a sort of random user token. So you can't identify anyone from that. But you can use things like the user ID from your system, as long as it doesn't contain any of that individual information. So that's user token. We're going to send that search. We're going to grab the first hit from that search, and then we're going to pass that into the click. So let's unpack a little bit about the click. So we are using the Search Insights library method click object IDs here. So within that payload, we're going to send the event name. Now, the event name is customizable. You can call it what you want, whatever specific to you. So what I've done here is called it simply product clicked. It does what it says on the tin. Okay, then we're passing the index, which is the index name from before. We're passing the user token that we passed in the search. So we're adding a user token to the search as well. Then we are passing the object ID of the product that was clicked on. You remember it was the first hit. Just to unpack a bit about the object ID, just when you pass this through, just make sure it's the object ID in Algolia and not a different number like a SKU, unless your SKU and your object ID number are the same. So just be wary of that. We do see issues with that sometimes. So I'm going to open up my terminal here, and what we're going to do is we're going to fire this file, execute this file, and then check in the debugger to see if it worked. So this is the point that I pray to the demo gods. So I'm going to execute this file and then see if it works. Right, okay, so the console says event sent, which looks good to me. And I'm going to come over to the user journey here. Sorry, not the user journey, the events debugger. I'll get that one right. So we go data sources, events, debugger. Now I did say that this is our real-time friend earlier, okay? So When you're looking at debugger, if you want to look at the last event that you've sent, you can see over here that it was received 12 seconds ago, which I imagine is the event that I sent from the code. So if we click on that, then what we can see is the payload that we sent, which is great. Then we can also see that the dashboard has added a timestamp to it. Now, most importantly here, you have this tab called Event Validity. So what Algolia does is firstly checks for errors. It says there are no errors, which is great. Then it does another check to see whether the object IDs are within the index that you're sending it to, because sometimes sometimes there are errors here, and this will give you a very clear indication as to what the problem is. Now, as we go further down the page, what you'll see on the left-hand side is destinations. So these are all the AI features and analytics and A/B testing on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, it's telling you whether it's going to be sent to that or it's not going to be sent to that. And you can see with a lot of kind of red that we've got a few issues here and that it's not being sent to neural search, analytics, A/B testing. Interestingly, you will see that it's being sent to some things like the recommended related items feature and also the personalization feature. Now, the reason why this is not being sent to these is because clearly here the error message is the event is missing a query ID. So what we're going to do is jump back into the code and make sure that we can send an event that contains a query ID and then go into a bit more detail. So I popped across to this new file and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to run a search here. This time it's going to be very similar, the payload. So we're going to query the word Sony, the same index. We're going to pass the user token through. This time, the most important thing to note is on line 17, we're passing the parameter click analytics true. What this parameter does is it retrieves the query ID for that search. You remember earlier we talked about the search and the glue and the event. This is where we get the query ID from. So pass this into the request. Then what we're going to do is take that query ID, print it to the console, just make sure things are working. This time we're going to take the second product from this search and store it in a variable and pass it to the click event. All right, so here's the click event. Let's unpick a little bit about this. So now this click event is going to be called clicked object IDs after search. It's a pretty long method name, but it does what it says on the tin, right? We're going to click some object IDs after we've searched for something. Again, I've customized the event name. So I'm calling it product clicked on search page, which is pretty clear. We are passing the second product for the object ID. We are passing positions too. Now, it's really important here that when you're passing positions, you need to pass them as non-zero index based because we don't accept that. The positions have to be 1 and upwards because we do see sometimes people sending positions 0, but it's not 0 index based. That's really important to know. Passing the index in, passing the user token in, and we are passing the query ID, which we got from the search response. So we have a search with the query ID and the event with the query ID. So let's pull this terminal up a little bit so you can see, and I'm going to run the code. So we really should get a query ID and event sent. Great, we have a query ID, looks like the event sent. Let's go back to our dashboard debugger. An event was received 7 seconds ago, sounds good to me. Let's click into it. We can see that it's worked. The payload is here, it's all the same. It's added the query timestamp. We've got the green, so the object ID is valid. It does appear in that index. And we have a bit more green here, a lot more green actually, for the destinations. So this event is being sent to neural search, analytics, A/B testing, DRR, lots of different things. It's not being sent, interestingly, to recommend because recommend is ignoring click events. So we would have to send a conversion event to do that. We'll do that in a second. What's great about this part of the debugger is it's going to tell you this column here of destinations, of how many destinations, how many AI features or analytics, A/B testing that it's going to get sent to. So this is a clear indication of that. So as I said, let's jump back into the code to see if we can send a conversion event this time that gets to all of our AI features. Let's get everything green. Okay, so again, we're going to send a search. We're going to send it with the same parameters as last time. Sony, index name, user token, click analytics true to get the query ID. Store the query ID. Let's get the third product, because 3 is the magic number, apparently. This is 0 index based, as the keen-eyed among you will notice. The second product is actually the third product. So let's have a look at the purchase event. So this time we've got an even longer method name that we're sending to the Insights API called purchased object IDs after search. Again, it does what it says on the tin. So we're purchasing object IDs this time after we've made a search. We are passing in the user token, the index name, the event name, which we've customized to product purchase from checkout, the object ID of the third product. Now, this one is new, object data. It's different to the last file that we showed with the query ID. So with this, we highly recommend that you send this when you're with purchase events and add to cart events, because this will populate the revenue analytics part of the dashboard. And within this, what I've done is packed in the query ID from the search up here, and we're going to put in the price of that product and the quantity. So this then is going to get sent to our revenue analytics part of the dashboard. So let's see if we can pull this up, run this code and see in the debugger if it worked. So it says event sent. Let's have a quick check in our dashboard. 2 seconds ago. Great. I was quicker with the screen change there. So let's jump into this. The payload looks good. This contains the object data for the revenue analytics part of the dashboard. We've got no errors, and it looks like it's being sent to all of the features. Great, looks good to me. So I just wanted to highlight a few other things that we recommend you look at for debugging with events. There are different tabs here. Let's move along to HTTP data. So this is going to give you a bit more information about where the events are being sent from. Obviously, my referrer is unknown because I'm sending it from a node environment, but it can give you more insights to debug. The user timeline is going to give you basically a user timeline based on token about what the user's been up to, and the query details will give you a bit more information there for debugging too. Quick little tip: the debugger is showing me here that I can filter by errors, which is great, right? So I don't have to do anything. I can just go, actually, there's a few errors coming in, so let's have a look at those. Click on that. It will pass this filter on it, and you can have a look into the errors that you've got here. Really good way of kind of diving into that. The other thing I really like about it is that you can change the filter columns. So if I wanted to debug a particular query ID or a bunch of query IDs or whatever, you can click that, and then you'll see the query ID appear up here. So all these kind of things are, really very useful. Just to go back to the actual conversion that we talked about just then, destinations 12. Yes, so we have sent this conversion event, this purchase event, to all 12 destinations, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to pop back now to the slides to talk about the user journey again. So one common issue that we see is missing query ID. And if you remember in our first example, the query ID was missing. You can see that it was only sent to, I think, two or three destinations. So capturing the query ID can be tricky. The search journey, as you can see from the search bar all the way through to the checkout, is a long process, and many things could happen in that time. There are different pages, there are different URLs, and if you want to track events on PDPs and on checkout, you might not be calling Algolia on those pages. And so here, you'll need to track the query ID all the way from the search bar to where you want to fire these events. And so the recommended solution that we have for this is to track the query ID as URL parameter. This is really our recommended way of doing this. There are other options. You can look at cookies, and you can look at local storage. There are drawbacks about those particular ways of doing it. So being aware of that is a good thing. So With the code we've just gone through, we were looking at the Search Insights library, and this was the best practice of sending events with the Search Insights library directly from the page. So now we're going to jump into more of a no-code way of sending some of those events with our InstantSearch library. So let me jump across to my events debugger again, but this time I'm going to go over to the settings tab here. What you can see in the settings tab, I'll zoom in a little bit so make sure you can see, is that you can see enable automatic events collection. So let's enable that. So essentially, once I've enabled this, it does 4 things under the hood. Most importantly, it will send default view and click events for your InstantSearch widgets. The next thing it will do, it will add the Search Insights library to your project, making it globally available. It will also set an anonymous user token for events and search requests, and it will include the query ID param in the search response. What I wanted to call out here, though, is that if you make sure, you really need to make sure that you are on a certain version of InstantSearch, and you can see that on this little tooltip here. So, for example, vanilla InstantSearch 4.59, you will need that or above for this enable automatic event collection to actually even happen. Okay, so what if you don't want to use this? What if you want to do it in the code? Let's jump across to that. So I've got here a very simple sandbox, and this is using vanilla InstantSearch. So if you want the no-code way of doing it, all you're going to need to do is pass this parameter of insights true when you're instantiating InstantSearch, and this will do all of those things that we just talked about under the hood. Let's say you're using React InstantSearch. If you're using React InstantSearch, you'll need to pass insights true within the InstantSearch component itself. So I realize we've covered a lot of different elements here, but just before I leave you, I want to show you a real life example on our demo flagship site using the network tab to debug from the front end. And this is for you customers out there who you can just jump straight into your events by debugging them on the front end if you've got them going already. So what I'm going to do here is open my developer tools, and I'm going to go to the network tab, and then I'm going to filter by Algolia events. So now I'm going to try and get some events going, and let's see what happens in here. So I'm going to click in here. We already have some events, which I imagine are view events, but I've got trumpet on my mind for some reason. So I'm going to type the word trumpet. I'm going to click through to the search results page. As you can see, we have a bunch of events coming up, and these are all view events, which are the view events which are populating from the page here. So I'm going to clear that. And then what I'm going to do is, I like the look of this Harmon mute. It looks very jazzy. I'm sure that makes a great Miles Davis sound. So I'm going to click on that, and we're going to see whether some events happen. All right. So the first one we can see in this is a click event. So if we open that, then we can see that this is a click event. You can see the index name. You can see the positions, the query ID, and the user token, which is fantastic. So let's fire another event. Let's fire an add to cart event. Looks like the product's added to cart, which is great. And we'll go down to the last event, open that up in payload here. This looks like a conversion event. So this is an add to cart event, and we're passing things like object data that we talked about with the price, quantity, the query ID, which is great because this is going to add into your revenue analytics in your dashboard. All right. I know I talked quite a bit there, so thanks for bearing with me. To wrap things up, here you've seen how to, number 1, send events with code and from the dashboard. Number 2, how to debug on the dashboard and the front end. Number 3, what the common pitfalls are. And most importantly, number 4, how useful events can be if you get them right. So for more information, please check out our documentation linked here or reach out to the team. Thanks very much for watching.